Good evening and welcome to THST Official, the official podcast of the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. I'm joined by Rachel Martin as always, Rob White as always, my name's Martin Buhagiar, and we're also joined by Henry Ellis and Simon Sullivan, our new board members, but we're going to come back to that, more on those two later. But good evening, guys. Welcome. Hope you're all well.
Hi there.
Hi. Good to see you.
We're recording this a day after the Middlesbrough game, and obviously there's far more important things going on in the world at the moment than football. And we're hoping that Spurs might provide us with some light relief, but we've learned over the years not to expect that Spurs will ever do that. So I don't know if we even want to mention last night's cup exit, but it was harsh, wasn't it? I nearly said cruel, the cruel cup exit, but it wasn't, because Middlesbrough completely deserved it, didn't they? But oh dear, another year gone. There we go.
Yeah, I think it was cruel for us, cruel for the people who went to Middlesbrough and went on coaches and travelled for hours and took days off work. But the result was deserved, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think when Matt Doherty went round the keeper and cleared the bar with a rugby clearance, we were thinking it might be one of those nights. And as soon as we go into extra time, I'm always assuming Spurs are going to lose these days. It just feels that way, doesn't it? But never mind. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to move on. What I would say, I'll start by saying that, of course, this podcast is always available on Spotify and iTunes. It is available for you to watch. You can see us on our YouTube channel, and it's also available on our website, THSTOfficial.com. So please tune into all those channels. If you have any ideas for future podcasts, get in contact with us. Let us know what you'd like to see, who you'd like to hear from. We do have some special guests coming up. We will let you know as and when that happens. And I think what we're going to do, we're going to start with the usual introductions. But one thing, Rachel, you had a very special food bank interview last week, didn't you? Which we're going to tag on to the end of this podcast. But do you want to tell us more about that, Rachel?
Yeah, it was a real pleasure, actually. I met through Zoom, actually. Other platforms are available, with Sarah Edwards, who's one of our trust members. It was a really inspiring meeting. And the lovely thing is that Sarah works really hard for the food bank, Tottenham Food Bank, and she's there on match days. She's a season ticket holder, so you are able to go to the games as well as support the food bank, of course. But what was so lovely was that she was inspired to get involved by the work of Pete Hain and the Trust, and the work and the podcast that we showed about the work of the food bank. So obviously, when people watch the interview at the end, we are hoping that other people might want to get involved. And in that clip, there are ways of how you can contact people and different ways of supporting the food banks.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. We look forward to seeing that at the end of this. And I suppose one of there were no good things about COVID. Well, food banks were around before then, but one thing that we've learned from COVID is how well and how effective those food banks have worked during the pandemic. Haven't been a real lifeline for people. So it's fantastic, and I'm proud as well from the Supporters Trust point of view that we're so involved in food banks, aren't we? So it's a real success story, and obviously thanks to all the volunteers at food banks up and down the country. I'm going to go to Rob next, because Rob always does his introduction, how you can join, why you should join, why it's so important to be a THST official member if you're a Spurs fan. So go on, Rob, over to you.
Well, yeah, thanks, Martin. I think it's especially pertinent tonight as we've got two new board members who obviously got involved for some reason, and hopefully we'll find that out later. We'll find out why they've decided to get involved. We're a voluntary organisation. We're non-profit. We're run by fans for fans. Part of the purpose of a trust is to help fans join together and strengthen our influence over the way that our club is run, and to improve links between the club and the community and the fans of the community. And I think, like Rachel's just said, the great work that Pete has done with the food bank is an illustration of that. So we represent Spurs fans to the club, media and national football authorities. We survey supporters for opinions on topics relating to both Spurs and football at a national level. Indeed, we've got the catering survey that we're going to talk about shortly. We have regular dialogue with relevant figures at Spurs on a number of topics, including ticketing, fan safety, community work. We work on community projects with the Tottenham Hotspur Foundation, as well as implementing our own projects where appropriate, like the fantastic mural project that's springing up. We hold social events where fans can get to know each other, meet ex-players and well-known sports journalists, and we work with a wide network of supporters trusts and the FSA on national campaigns around things like ticketing and safe standing. So we sort of do quite a lot of fan-based involvement, really, and it's about trying to become more a part of how football and the club is run and having an influence on that. So anyone that's interested in joining can become a full member for £10 a year. I think it's £5 a year for over 65s. And with a full membership, it basically means that you get to, it's a more interactive level of membership. And we encourage anyone to get involved as you can. Full members get invited to the AGM, have full voting rights, and have the right to stand for election like Henry and Simon have done. You can become an associate member, which is free. You can access that means you can access all of our communications, and you're welcome at social events apart from the AGM. And associate members can't vote and can't stand for election. And you can also become a junior member for free. And we have an official Spurs supporters clubs can join for £25. All that can be done on the THSTOfficial.com website. You just go to the About Us page, scroll to the bottom of the page, click on Join Now. It's as simple as that.
Brilliant.
And that's it.
Thanks, Rob. And you get, as Rob said, you get to come. I think the best bit, you get to come to our barbecue, end of season barbecue. I mean, that's worth it in itself.
Exactly.
Where you get to meet people like Ledley King and other legends. When was that? That was a few years ago, wasn't it? Ledley King came. What a man.
Yeah, I think it was about 3 years ago now.
My kids still talk about helping him with the raffle draw. So, you know, there you go. That's the reason itself to join THST Official and the pub quiz. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll come back to it because we're talking about events later on. As Rob mentioned, we had our AGM last month. Sad to see 2 board members depart, but the upside of that is Henry and Simon have joined us. We're going to come to an introduction on Simon and Henry in a bit, but to tell us more about our AGM and those changes, back to you, Rachel.
Yeah, because we are a formally constituted trust, we have a formal constitution, so we have to have an AGM, and it's there's a page on our website dedicated to the AGM, so people can go and have a look there if they'd like to. At the AGM, basically, we show and share the work that we've done during the year. And this year we actually had that in a film, a 5-minute, or I think it was 5 minutes and 22 seconds film, with Kat and Martin basically sort of doing a whistle-stop tour through the work we did. And it was, you know, even those of us who were actually, you know, we were all doing the work, but it was still quite a surprise in a way to just see how many things we've been working on. So we share the work. We obviously do the finances, the treasurer presents the accounts, etc. And we also have elections. And at the elections this year, we the membership voted for the 2 co-chairs to continue, which is Kat Law and Martin Cloak. Because Pete Hayne was standing down, it meant that we needed to have a new secretary, and that's Steve Cavalier, who will be joining us on the podcast in I think next time. And the treasurer, who's Adam Bailey, he was re-elected to continue, as were the auditing arrangements. And then we were really pleased to have elections to the board, 3 new board members, Simon and Henry, and Kunal, who will also be joining us next time. We'll get to meet him then.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. So now is a good time to meet our new board members. So we're going to go to Simon Sullivan. I'm just going to try and not make this sound like a quiz. You know, and you say, who are you?
Yeah.
Where you from? So I'll avoid doing that. It does sound like catchphrase in the 90s, doesn't it? So Simon, tell us a bit about yourself, why you wanted to join THST Official, and you know, a bit about your Spurs journey.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Martin. Hi, everyone. I'm glad I'm going to avoid difficult questions, particularly on my first podcast. So thank you for that. Maybe I'll start with my Spurs journey first. I've been a Spurs fan longer than I care to imagine. I certainly had hair before I started supporting Tottenham. I blame my loss of hair on many things, but that's probably the main one, is supporting Spurs. In my younger years, home and away, season ticket holder, etc. As life took over, season ticket went away for a while, and then fortunately was able to get one again, and I'm now lucky enough to be able to attend, have 2 tickets in the South Stand, and go with one or both of my boys, depending on whether we can get a 3rd ticket as well. So yeah, it's just a labour of love, which I think we all share. But with regards to the trust, I've been aware of the work the trust have done for a long time through social media, through friends who are members, friends who are on the board as well, and think what they do is quite amazing, really, when you bear in mind we're all volunteers. But I think fundamentally, for me, with my 2 boys and looking forward, if I can help be part of that group that shapes the future of the club from a fan's perspective as best we can, I'd love to do that, because I love going with my boys. I love going to football, meeting up with friends, and we all want it to be the best experience it can be. So when I look at what the trust does, I thought, I'd love to be part of that and help where I can. I think the sort of particular areas I'll be involved in, certainly in the beginning, are ticketing, which I know is generally a big point for everybody. Catering, so working with Rachel on the catering stuff, which is certainly a big point for me, because I enjoy food and beer before a game. That's for certain. But also on the media side. So unfortunately, people will be seeing and hearing more of me on these podcasts going forward, and also working with Rob on the transport side. So really looking forward to getting involved and working with everyone and representing our membership as we go forward.
Brilliant. Thank you, Simon, and welcome. We do talk about the food and drink on this podcast quite a lot, and I am wondering, because we've given Neck Oil so many plugs, I think we might have to tag Beavertown into one of our tweets one day and see if we can get some beer sent our way, because it's true. We all like the food is great, and we all love the beer as well, obviously. Now Henry's also joined us, and I'll bring Henry in a sec, but we also really welcome Henry because he's a younger member and has brought the average age of the Spurs Supporters Trust board down. So that is brilliant. So you're very welcome on that count, Henry. But over to you to tell us a bit about yourself and what you'll be doing.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and it's great to be involved. So hi, listeners and people viewing on video too. I've followed Spurs for over probably 22 years now, and given I'm only 27, that's taken up quite a lot of my life. Remember when my father used to take me as a young boy, and he used to stand in the East Lower, and even then I was told to sit down by the stewards, and not much seems to have changed now. So yeah, I've followed Tottenham home and away probably for the last 15 years. And actually I grew up with the Harry Redknapps and then later on the Pochettino years, and what a time to have been a Spurs fan. I guess with the trust, I've seen many issues and many solutions they've provided at away games across Europe whenever there's been ticketing issues. Last minute, when tickets haven't arrived in the post, and Cat and Martin have been able to sort it out, or off the back of a European away day where we've really needed a body of people to go to that represent us fans, particularly over security issues, or where we've had police aggression. I remember back to Seville, and so now I'm a little bit older, and as a qualified accountant, I thought that I could bring some skills, particularly in the finance and property area of our club, which it seems to be at the forefront of everybody's mind at the moment, and hopefully I can contribute and really delve into some of the issues facing our club at the moment with finances and explaining that to fans. So the areas I'm going to be working on are obviously the financials, but then also the mental health foundation work that the trust does, as well as ticketing with Simon and Kat. So it's great to be here. Thank you for having me, and hopefully we can together make some really good memories.
Brilliant. Thank you, Henry and Simon. Welcome to both of you. And it's great to have, as I said, new board members, and as we always say, we're volunteers, so it's to have that sort of level of experience coming into the board is wonderful. But I'm a bit jealous, and you said your years, most recent years, all growing up at Redknapp and Pochettino, because mine are Christian Gross and Ozzy Ideales, the famous five up front. So when I was a season ticket holder in the 90s, so at least you've had some good years as well. So although Spurs can get rid of those and immediately go back to default setting, can't we? So all good.
And mine was Bill Nicholson. I mean, you'll be shocked to know that.
All right.
And I actually got to meet him, but I think I was 12 or something like that, and I just came up to London. I saw that I was near Tottenham. I went to Tottenham on the bus and stood outside and was just sort of staring at the stadium. And he actually came out and saw me there and asked what I was doing, and then took me into the what's the name of the building with the clock on it? The White House or something?
Red House.
Yeah.
The which one?
Red House.
The Red House. I can't believe that it's called Red. And all the first team are in there, and he introduced me to the first team, and then one of the men, I can't remember who it was, but took me into the stadium and showed me I stood on the pitch and everything. It was just amazing. I just love him.
That's amazing, because it's things like that are brilliant. I mean, I joke about Christian Gross. I mean, my early years were Berkshire and Venables, and then obviously winning the FA Cup. And I remember going to a junior Spurs Open Day in '91. We won the cup, and holding the cup with Eric Torsvet and Gary Mabbutt. And I've still got the picture somewhere. And, we should do a pod on Spurs memories like that.
Definitely.
I remember when I was working in sorry, we've gone right off topic again.
Yes, sorry.
When I was working in regional press, and the '99 Cup final under George Graham, he took them to Henlow Grange, and I was waiting for a Bedfordshire paper, so I ran down there to meet them. George Graham was really friendly. Met David Ginola, and he didn't want to speak to the press at all. So I said, David, have you got anything to say to the press? He said, I've got nothing to say to the press. And I said, have you got anything to say to Spurs fans? And he said, I love you. And I said, I love you too. And he said, are you a Spurs fan? And I said, yes. And he says, well, I love you too then. And that was it. And I was like, shortest interview ever. Didn't obviously make the print edition, just David telling me he loves me, but made bloody day. And I've got a photo of it. So happy days. I think we should move on, shall we? I was reminded of that during I'm a Celebrity. I was just saying to the kids, that man told me he loved me. Yeah. Okay, no. Anyway, moving swiftly on. We're going to cover some important elements. So normally Ameth would cover ticketing for us. She's not here tonight. So Rob, you're going to give us the ticketing update, aren't you? So over to you, mate.
I am. I was going to say to Henry that actually Kunal as well. Although he's not here, that people remarked on how young you are at the AGM, and being on the I can speak from experience being on the board, the trust board. It ages you. It's a bit like dog years, basically. So. I want to see what you look like. I looked like you when I started, and that was 2 years ago. I'm now 58. Anyway, sorry. On to go on.
I'm going to find a podcast from 2 years ago now, Rob, and we'll see. We'll compare.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm stepping into Anthula's shoes today and giving a quick roundup on ticketing, because obviously. Now that the government plan has been removed, the club has gone we've reverted to our original operational parameters. So basically, I'll just whiz through quickly. So for ticket exchange for season ticket holders, this will now open at the club's discretion, typically once a match is sold out. Yeah. So basically, ticket exchange for One Hotspur members. Ticket exchange is no longer available for One Hotspur members to list tickets. One Hotspur members are able to return individual match tickets to the club for a full refund, no less than 7 days before a match. One Hotspur members unable to attend. Blah blah. Yeah. One Hotspur members who are unable to make a match rescheduled for TV will be able to request a refund, providing it's no less than 7 days out from the match. Ticket share for season ticket holders. Ticket share will open no later than 2 weeks before a match, though the intention is to make the remainder of the season's matches available to share soon. Ticket share for One Hotspur members. Ticket share is no longer available for One Hotspur members to pass their tickets on to family and friends. The same points apply as above for One Hotspur members who cannot attend a match. That's about it for that. Cup games don't have any relevance anymore, and sadly.
Cut that one.
Exactly. Well, no, I was just mentioning it. We can dwell on it if you'd like to, Rachel.
I mean, these days, if you say to anyone, "Oh, it's all right, we've gone out of the cup, and it doesn't matter, the year doesn't end in one," that doesn't even mean anything these days, because it's been so long since we've won a cup when the year ended in bloody one. How many years have we had that have ended in one anyway? But thank you, Rob, for that update.
There's a little bit more, Martin. So we're in continued dialogue with Spurs around the operational parameters of ticket exchange and ticket share, and of course, we appreciate that many of you rely on ticket exchange to recoup some of the significant costs of the season ticket. So we're sort of working on that, and we'll continue to make those points, the points that we made earlier, we'll continue to make those points to the club. Anyone that's been affected by changes, we advise people to write to the ticket office, email them at ticket.office@tickethotspur.com and copy in our info into that. And that's about it for the ticketing really at the moment. So any problems with that, contact ticket.office@tottenhamhotspur.com.
Yeah, and just to say also that sorry, Martin, just to say we're continuing to lobby the club. Obviously, we're waiting for season ticket prices, aren't we, for next season, and when they're going to make us pay for them, and to just bear in mind when they're thinking about what they're going to charge us, that I think everybody has lost money on this season. We've all had matches we couldn't go to mainly because of COVID. Not necessarily we've had COVID, but other things have impacted us because of COVID. We've not been able to get our money back because we can't sell them on the ticket exchange. And not to keep going on about it, but except I am going to keep going on about it. We have lost the 2 cup matches. Not the results, we've also lost them, but the 2 tickets that were included in our season ticket. And we need to keep reminding them about that, and we will lobby for that every year, basically.
Good point, Rachel. I mean, we've lost the cup match tickets and we've lost the cup matches as well.
Exactly.
It's the worst of both worlds, really, isn't it? But it's a good point. We saw, didn't we, that Arsenal are looking at potentially putting up their season tickets. So it's and I know there might be issues down the road financially, but I think as a club, I think Spurs are in a more healthy position, and you'd hope that they're not going to make that decision. It's worrying if they did.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. And just to say, all the ticketing information that Rob's just provided is all on our newsletter. You can receive that via email, or you can go onto our website, THSTOfficial.com, and read it there. Next on the agenda is me, and I'm going to talk about the YWord. Obviously, a very sensitive subject, very sensitive topic. It's one of those, in the build-up to the Wolves game, wasn't it? The club published its statement on the findings of these focus groups it held on the YWord. Sorry if you can hear some background noise. My dogs are trying to get into the room. I've now locked them out. So details of the YWord and the proposed YWord campaign. We published our own statement on the same day, and we encourage all fans to read both statements carefully. They're on our website. We took the decision not to make any further comment in order to avoid fueling the media, because you saw it at the Wolves game, actually, didn't you? As soon I had friends texting me as soon as we kicked off, and somebody did say Yid Army, or we sang a thing like Most is Being Yid. Sky Sports started reporting that immediately. It was all over social media as if some huge crime had been committed, which I don't know, it left me with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And I think so. We made the decision not to provide further comment in order not to fuel that kind of media circus that goes on around this debate, and to have some, and to almost clarify our position, which we've done in our newsletter, and I'm going to do now. And one of the things we've always said as a trust is we always say Spurs fans singing the word in a football context isn't anti-Semitic. We want to see action taken against the unambiguous anti-Semitism directed at us, at Spurs fans, which we still hear. And if there's ever any doubt that from anybody that doesn't happen, I invite them to travel with Spurs fans to any game to some of our neighbouring London stadiums, and they can hear it for themselves. Interestingly as well, this is my own point of view, in the Chelsea game, there was a tweet from Chelsea's official Twitter page that was later deleted about putting the gas on, and nothing was really said about that by any channel, which I find really peculiar, by Kick It Out, by anybody. And that's my own personal view, not the view of the Supporters Trust. But I find it incredible that that somebody can say that, and nobody even seemed to ask the club for a comment. But that seems to just, it just illustrates the point. We recognise it's a controversial subject. We've never said it wasn't, which is why we welcome recent efforts to ask fans to think about the use of the word. But any decision we feel must come from the fans, and we should listen, especially to our Jewish fans, and respect the variety of views that they hold on the subject. And I'm sure, again, myself, I've got a lot of friends who are Jewish football fans who support Spurs, and they are passionate about using the YWord, like, very passionate. And it's important that these people are able, all of us are able to have an adult conversation and put our views across. We don't believe sanctions are the way forward. We have and will continue to defend our fans from sanction and accusations of anti-Semitism. Wasn't that long ago, was it, that there was? How long ago was it when there were rumours that the police were going to look into whether or not there was an offence being committed? Actually said there's no offence being committed, and it's a really sensitive area, but we don't want to go back to those days. The club has asked for time to reappraise and reassess use of the word, and we want to give our members time to do this too. So we're planning on asking a few questions in our end of year survey in June, and then we'll agree on our next steps once we have that data and a clear steer on how our members feel about the continued use of the word. So that really summarises our current stance on that issue. But it's a sensitive subject. But one, I've always felt I've never understood this idea that by Spurs fans reclaiming the word and using it as a positive. I always think of the way we chant to players taking the corner as a positive response. If you were there in the 80s and 90s, as some of us were, and you heard the rife anti-Semitism, you'd realise it was a very positive. But also that when you go to London stadiums, particularly London stadiums, some of our neighbours, it still exists, and and I think it's potentially an easy way out to say that Spurs fans are using this is somehow fueling that. It's a bizarre statement to make, but I'll say that before I say too much.
I think it was. I just looked online. It's 2014 that the CPS announced it would discontinue the prosecution of 3 Spurs fans. So that was back in 2014.
Yeah, I always remember as well. I think it's important to talk about these things. I just think education's a massive part of what happened. I think there are fans who don't get it. I remember seeing a fan at a game. I won't say which club it was. It was Spurs versus someone, and he was doing a Nazi salute while wearing a poppy, because it was in the event, and which I found it just bizarre. It's just that clearly that person needed to be spoken to and to have things explained to them. And I think education is a massive part, but I do think there's an element of brushing what goes on at other clubs under the carpet, which is the wrong approach, because that's where the crime was really being committed, isn't it? So.
But hopefully this, I think it's personally, again, I think it's good that this conversation is being had, and I know you've just said that, but I think if we can have a really good open conversation about that, then we can move this issue forward. And I think we need to move the issue forward. Personally, I think it's time that we at least talk about it. And any social change takes a while, and I think this is a social change. But I think it also needs to be understood from all sides. Really, it's a really difficult one. I think it's a really difficult one. But it's one that just because a conversation is difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't have that conversation.
Yeah, I think as well from the younger fans' point of view, there's an education piece to be had as well. Because speaking from my personal experience, I've obviously been there 20 odd years, but that's not. I wasn't there in the 80s when we were subjected to the somewhat weekly abuse. I've heard it through my dad and others, and so I think there's definitely the world has moved on, and I think there is a conversation to be had with the younger generation too, to understand their views on why it's used, why they use it, etc., and so on.
But I do think also, these are all really good points, but I think another point about education is that actually not everyone even knows what it means and why people would be offended. They think a Yid is a Spurs fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of education needed. I mean, again, harking back to the dark days, I was there. I don't know if anyone else was, when Mark Bosnich actually made a Nazi salute at us.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So yeah, it's there is a lot of context, and it is a conversation we need to have. Yes.
And faced no real sanction for doing that at the time. Mark wasn't, just apologised, said he didn't realise.
Yeah.
That was it. But how would you not realise? Why were you doing it then? It's a bizarre thing to do during a football match, isn't it? I don't get that. Anyway, yeah, all really good points. Thank you all. I think that just shows the level of the strength of feeling about this, and that it's not just you guys stop it and we'll solve the problem. It's much deeper and bigger than that. Moving on to catering, which is a slightly lighter subject. I'm going to bring in Simon and talk about our catering survey and other various catering aspects. Over to you, Simon.
Great, thanks, Martin. I'm not sure about lighter. The amount of beer I maybe drink whilst watching Spurs nowadays is certainly not helping on that front, that's for sure. But yeah, we touched earlier, didn't we, on the food and drink at the stadium in particular. And as mentioned, we currently have a survey out, which we would love all of our members to go on and take and fill in for us. Rachel and I have a meeting coming up with the catering team in the very near future. And the information we glean from these surveys is really important in how we direct those conversations with that team and help them. Hopefully there's some positive feedback in there. I'm sure there'll be a number of comments again around pricing, and we're fully aware of what's gone on there in the last couple of months. But yeah, we would really appreciate it if more people would give us their views. The survey's easy to find. You can either go onto the THSTofficial.com website and look for the February newsletter. And once you've read everything else in there, you'll also find the link to the survey. Failing that, if you go and search for some of the tweets from THST Official, you'll find that that survey link has been sent out there on a number of occasions. But yeah, the more people that can do it, the better. I think we've had 200-300 responses already. But the more we can get and the greater voice we can take to the club with our views, the better. So certainly look forward to hearing from people. And just to be clear, other than neck oil, there are other beers available at the stadium.
Are there?
Apparently,
Well,
apparently so, Martin. There's also wine and tea and coffee and things like that. Apparently.
Very true. Very good. No, absolutely. No, there are. And I love an Amstel too. Depends. I've got a hangover, I'll have an Amstel. But it's but all good. Thank you very much, Simon. It's brilliant. Now on to Henry. Henry's looking at our sort of links with the community, aren't you, Henry? And the various bits and pieces we've got going on there. So over to you.
Yeah. So it's largely just a reminder of our links with the Antwerp Arms. So it's kind of the pre-match drinking area that we occupy. So I think Stephen's got the THST badges now, which on any match day, if you want to come along and pick one up, it will get you 10% off your food and drink, I believe.
Yeah,
I think it's drink as well. So
alcoholic drinks as well, Henry.
Alcoholic drinks as well, yeah. So, I'm not sure if they've got neck oil though.
We'll get it on. We'll get it on.
So do that on any match day. Just come up to one of the board members and we'll help you with that. And if not, just drop us an email, the official email address, and we'll get back to you and organise that. I guess another part of our work over the next few months is going to be on mental health. I touched on it briefly in my introduction. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's mainly about getting as people talking about how they're feeling on the terraces, really. We've had links with Andy Mann's club, and we will continue to do that. But we really want to hear from you on guiding us, because it's got to come from the fans. Mental health is an area that isn't spoken about enough, and we've all got a common interest and a common ground to start from in Tottenham, for better or worse. And I know often it probably damages our mental health more than it helps us at times. But the community that we've got is something that's unique to football, and as fans we probably don't talk as much as we should about how we are and how we're feeling. So if you have any ideas on how we should approach this with the fans, then do get in touch via email, and we'd love to hear what you've got to say.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Henry. We're moving on again. We're talking about pubs, and we're talking about what we're doing in the community. We talked about catering and other bits and pieces. Now it's on to our forthcoming quiz for members and our end of season barbecue, which is always something I look forward to. So over to you, Rachel.
Yeah, so these have always been very successful, enjoyable evenings in the past, very much part of our calendar. And they've always been organised by Kevin Fitzgerald, who unfortunately has stepped down from his board responsibilities. And is going to be a very hard act to follow. But he's helping me enormously. I'm going to be organising them, but obviously I know that all the board members will be supporting me with making sure that these are huge successes again. So at the moment, I'm sort of well underway with organising the quiz, and we've had, I think I've been to probably about 4 quizzes, 3 or 4. The next quiz that we're having, it's an annual event, is on the 21st of April in the evening at the Antwerp Arms, which is Church Street, I think, isn't it, in Tottenham, very near the stadium. It really, I mean, I know I would say this, but it does look like it's going to be a really great occasion. Lots of different rounds, suitable for all ages, and we're doing quite a variety of formats this time. So we've got some sort of historical quizzes, rounds about the 60s, 70s, etc. Actually, I think even older than that, right up until the present day. And we've got, I'm responsible for doing the picture rounds, which I love, just wasting hours trawling through Google and, you know, finding obscure pictures of the Spurs players and things for the picture rounds. We've also got a music round, which one of our trust members has put together as well. So that will be fun. And if you would like to come, I hope you will. But obviously there's quite restricted numbers. So we need to know in advance if you're coming. And could you just email us, please, on info@THSTOfficial.com. And then we'll be able to reserve your place. It's £5 entry. And it's all for charity. It's for one of our community projects that we support with mental health issues, actually. So there's that on the 21st of April. And then the other event that we've got coming up, and again, you know, how lovely to be in person again and be able to meet up, is the barbecue. And that's going to be on Sunday, the 29th of May. And we really have got sort of the most amazing guest of honour at that one, which is the Trust Honorary President, none other than Steve Perriman. And I mean, honestly, when I was a child, I just adored him. Him and John Pratt, believe it or not, were my favourites. And so, you know, I'm so looking forward to that event and meeting him then. And he will be there to, you know, and he'll chat with everybody, and he'll be there for a good amount of time. We hope that the club will send a team for the quiz. And last time they did, and I think we mentioned before, but Ledley King came and took part in the quiz. He'd stayed for the whole evening, and he was just absolutely brilliant. So hopefully we'll have something similar for the quiz as well. So that's 2 dates for your diary. For the barbecue, it'll be on Eventbrite, but we're not selling tickets just yet. We're still organising that one. There's still plenty of time, end of May.
Brilliant.
Hope to see lots of you there.
Let's hope so.
I want.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, what I'd like to know, Rachel, is the picture behind you an insight into one of the rounds?
Oh.
Rachel's going to be painting portraits of Spurs players, aren't you, Rachel?
Exactly.
Give a clue there.
Nobody would guess what they are, who they are.
It'll be Steve Perriman and John Pratt, we know now, wouldn't it? So.
Oh, and Bill Nicholson.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. I mean, it's worth mentioning again because Ledley King's been to our quiz, and he was also at our first barbecue, or one of the first barbecue, and he was there. He couldn't do enough for me. Just what a guy! Just had so much time. Spoke to everyone. Lovely man, and fully deserves that mural. That's it. That's our podcast for February. You can hear if you hear my dog barking in celebration, they know the podcast and they can now come into this room. So apologies if you can hear some background noise. Just wanted to say before we go, a big shout out to Kevin Fitzgerald and Pete Hain, our outgoing board members who've done so much for the trust, and as a result have done so much for Spurs fans, whether it be charity work, work on the Spurs community liaison forum. Well, just a huge amount of work from the pair of them. And I think we all owe them a massive amount of thanks, and so our gratitude to them. And we wanted to place that on record on this podcast. Just a reminder again, you can watch this on YouTube. You can tune in on Spotify and on iTunes. Please go back in time and listen to our other podcasts. There's some corkers in there, aren't there? Whether it's about the European Super League or other events that we've spoken about. We got a bit feisty, which was always good fun. But please go back and have a listen. We'll be back again this time next month. We may well record some special editions in between if we can get some special guests lined up. Thanks to Rachel, Rob, Henry and Simon. We'll be back soon. I would say come on you Spurs as normal, but it feels a bit flat. Just say stay on with it, because after this we're going to edit in Rachel's interview from the food bank. So please stay on and watch that. But we're going to say goodbye. Have a lovely evening and a good week. And yeah, come on you Spurs, I should say.
Well,
Come on, you Spurs.